Ladies, it's so ridiculous, really.
Welcome to PhD2go, the podcast for PhD students in the natural sciences in Göttingen.
Here we are, back again for our second episode of PhD2go. I'm happy to introduce our two information gold mines today, giving us all of the answers we need related to the logistics of actually doing a PhD in Göttingen. First, we have Christina. She is an important contact involved in the scientific coordination of both the master's and PhD cardiovascular science programs at the university. And we also have Kirsten, who is the head of the Graduate Center for Neurosciences, Biophysics, and Molecular Biosciences, short for GG&B, one of the graduate schools within the university that supports the different doctoral programs. So a very warm welcome to the both of you, and thank you for taking the time to let me pick your brains today. So hypothetically speaking, if I were to start all over again, how should I go about applying for a doctoral program, and what requirements would I need to meet to do so?
So, first of all, you would have to contact a potential supervisor. And once they agree to supervise you, you would then apply to a program within GGNB or also Gauss. You can apply at any time, so there's no fixed application deadline, and you do so exclusively online. So there are different online forms that you need to complete. You can then apply for the doctoral program either before or within maximum 3 months of the start of your PhD project. Okay. So that's a deadline.
So just to be clear, if I were not to fulfill one of these requirements when applying, would I still have a chance? Would I still be able to apply?
So the doctoral program you apply to always checks your degree, and if there's certain elements missing, you can be required to fulfill additional requirements. So, for example, an oral examination to demonstrate your knowledge in the natural sciences, or especially in the field you are doing your PhD in. You can be asked to submit a master's thesis equivalent. You can be asked to do a research internship. But this is really decided by the program itself, based on your previous qualification.
Very good to know. If you were to give a visual explanation for the different institutions involved in the university and how they all work together, how would you explain that to someone?
So maybe the university can be pictured as the universe. Mm-hmm. And within the universe, we then have different solar systems. Now, the natural sciences and mathematics are one solar system. One of the solar systems in the universe would be Gauss. The institution of Gauss would provide the gravitational force in the form of degree regulations or examination rights to faculty members, keeping the solar system really together. Around the sun of Gauss, the different faculties and GGMB are orbiting. So these are the planets, and then the planet GGMB itself has 16 moons. So you can picture it as Jupiter with its 16 moons, and GGMB is basically the central institution for these 16 different doctoral programs.
So basically all of these different institutions, all of these different participants make this solar system work.
Exactly.
So you mentioned Gauss, which you referred to as the sun, and you mentioned the GGMB, which is one of the 6 planets. Can you go into a little bit more detail about those two?
Yeah, in total, the solar system Gauss comprises around 1,500 doctoral students, of which around 500 are on the moons circling the GGMB Jupiter. The GGMB planet actually came into existence in late 2007 and is comprised of different elements, really. So we have the Max Planck Institute of Multidisciplinary Sciences and Dynamics and Self-Organization, the German Primate Center, but also the faculties of biology, chemistry, medicine, and physics that jointly form this planet.
Okay, so as Kirsten said, every natural science doctoral student who wants to do a doctorate in Göttingen must be enrolled as a student at the university in one of those programs which are orbiting the 6 planets. Every PhD program has a thematically focus, for example, cell biology, neuroscience, molecular medicine, or in our case, cardiovascular science. And all courses and training are taught in English in these programs, and they are all open for students with a master's degree or equivalent degree in life and natural sciences or in related fields.
Christina, you mentioned these different doctoral programs. Are there actually groups already established within these programs which provide funding that someone could apply for?
So yeah, within the doctoral programs, there are sometimes, for example, so-called research training groups. These are special groups funded by the so-called German Research Foundation, and they offer, in addition, a structured doctoral program for maximum 4 years. The RTGs are not themselves doctoral programs, but they are just embedded in the doctoral programs, and within those they offer additional training for their own students, which are trained in cohorts, and of course the financial support.
Definitely. Up to this point, it is clear how someone needs to apply and what details they really need to consider when wanting to do a PhD in Göttingen. But what other support is offered for the progression of a PhD? So besides the supervisor, are there other people that actually offer advice for a successful project?
So the main source of advice throughout the PhD is always the thesis advisory committee. It is composed of your supervisor and 2 more faculty members who have to be independent from your supervisor, so not part of the department. At the latest, with the admission, this thesis advisory committee, or TAC in short, is determined. And they support the doctoral student throughout the PhD in the TAC meetings, which have to be held minimum once per year. And prior to the meeting, the doctoral student then prepares a progress report, sends it to the TAC members so they have an idea of how the project has advanced, and they can prepare already what kind of input they want to give and how to guide the next phase of the PhD. And that's it.
Yeah. So this thesis committee basically helps progress the student because the student is required to update them not only on data that has been generated, but also on different methods that they're learning, how they're obtaining that data. So it really helps the student stay focused and overcome challenges with the advice from these.
Exactly. And also, when it comes to methods, the thesis advisory committee can also advise the student on which of the large array of methods courses offered within the GGMB they should take that can help them with their project. So that's another aspect of these meetings that are held.
Mm-hmm. This committee helps the students to progress their project, as we've already established. Do they also recommend different technical courses to take, or does the university actually offer German language courses, for example, to the PhD students as well?
Yes and yes. So the committee should advise you on which methods could further your PhD project and which methods courses within the GGMB program could help you with that. But the GGMB and GAUS offer a wide array of courses, both for scientific methods and for professional skills and languages. So within these, you can pick and choose whichever fits your interests and expertise. There's only one course that is mandatory, and that's the Seminar on Good Scientific Practice that every doctoral student within the natural sciences and mathematics has to take once during their PhD, preferably in the first year. Other than that, you're free to choose whatever is interesting for you.
So, and participation is accepted for this required course, or do you get a credit? Is there a credit system also involved?
Yes, there is. So during your entire PhD, you're required to collect at least 20 credits over 5 different categories. So one category would be lectures and colloquia and seminars. One would be methods courses, such as we just talked about. One is scientific meetings. So if you go to a conference, either abroad or in Germany, you have to collect credits. Another one is teaching. So you yourself have to fulfill teaching credits during your PhD. And the last category is professional skills courses.
Oh, all right. And what about the teaching credits that I would need to, or someone may need to acquire? Does that mean teaching in front of a class of master students, or does it mean actually having a lab rotation student or a bachelor thesis student that kind of goes along alongside my project?
It can be any of these. So you can supervise a bachelor's thesis, a master's thesis, a medical doctoral thesis. You can supervise lab rotations. You can teach master's students in their courses. You can also offer a methods course in GGMB yourself, which a lot of people do who do not regularly host bachelor's theses or lab rotations within their labs. So that's another way to acquire the required teaching credits.
Mm-hmm. And so the number of credits that you get from teaching, for example, is dependent upon the duration of how long you teach a student, or for how many hours you offer a course.
Yes and no. So usually yes, but for example, for a bachelor's thesis, you get 2 credits, even if you taught more hours than the 60 hours that these 2 credits would constitute. The same for master's and MD thesis, which give 3 credits.
All right. So you mentioned that the Gauss and the GGMB, they offer workshops, they offer professional skills training, they also offer different courses. How would someone go about actually registering or finding those courses?
So the courses are offered every month in the Gauss newsletter. So if you receive that, you can find them there. You can also just go directly to the Gauss homepage and find a link to the courses. You then register in StudIP and get assigned the courses.
Okay, Kirsten, but one additional really important information for the students. So once they have registered, their participation becomes binding, and it's only possible to cancel with a sick certificate or statement by the supervisor for science reasons. So if they do not cancel in time or are absent without excuse from a course or book an overlapping course, they will be blocked for 12 months
Yes.
for all methods or skills courses, and from funding such as travel grants and bridging funds.
Yes.
And no, we all do not make any exceptions.
That is unfortunately very correct. We are very strict with that. We have to be.
And it sounds like no PhD student would want that to happen to them, actually.
You don't.
No, definitely.
You don't.
Before we end our second episode, I want to play a little game with both of you, if you'll entertain the idea, of course.
All
So-
for it.
Good. So let's say someone was successfully accepted to do their PhD in Göttingen. I will name off a few details which may need to be addressed throughout the PhD, and one of you can just shout out who would be the best contact person to help. Ready?
Mhm.
Yes,
Okay. So getting an employment contract.
it's your supervisor.
Okay. What about mental health support?
I would say go to the Gauss webpage, search their support pages, and they have a whole list of resources and contact persons you can get in touch with.
Great. All right. And getting a student ID?
Enrollment office.
Yeah, the international office also for international students.
All right. And what about if someone wanted to participate in or present at a conference?
First your supervisor, and then the relevant coordination office for a possible travel grant.
And at the very end of the PhD, if an extension was needed for the thesis, how would one go about getting an extension approved? And what about funding for that extension?
So there are both things. First, your PhD thesis, and you have to discuss the extension of your PhD thesis, of course, first with your supervisor and in addition with your PhD program. And the second thing is your working contract. So you have a working contract in where your lab is based, and you have to discuss this in addition also with your supervisor and with the human resource department.
And it was clear to me that actually only 2 extensions can be done.
Yes, in total for 2 times 6 months.
Okay.
Anything beyond that is really complicated and only for a very well-founded reason, and it has to be discussed by the GGMB board.
All right. So it sounds like things definitely get more complicated whenever you decide to extend your thesis.
Definitely, yes.
All right, great. Thank you, ladies, very much for sitting down with me to answer some of these logistical questions about doing a PhD in Göttingen.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Great.